Hi, this is just a video series on how to pull down shapefile data from Queenstown Council's website for Three Waters and then stylize it to use it as base maps in your CAD drawings. First of all, you go to your website and the data download portal and select the area of interest. And then once you've done that, it'll pull it down and give you a zip file to download. Once you've got that file, you can unzip it and you'll have numerous layers representing all the different Three Waters services. In this case, I've got everything pretty much, and I've pulled it into QGIS. So I do that by just going to layers and add a data source, add a vector data source, and then browse to the folder with all the shape files and add them to your map. When QGIS brings it in, it doesn't apply any styling in a logical manner. It just sort of colours it up how it sees fit. But what you would like to do ideally is to have things look similar to what they see in the council portal. So in that case, for green lines for stormwater with a few bits of labels of different information. So to change the colour of your layer, you just double click on the layer name and just come in and pull the drop down. Let's say we'll just change that green colour and we can go apply, and you can see it applied on our screen in the background there. So that's applying colours in the first part, and I'll pause now and come back and talk about changing symbols, adding symbols and adding labels. Okay, welcome back. So now we're just going to look at changing the manhole styles. So they're just sort of dots at this stage. I really want to say a couple of dots, one to represent the precast manhole and one to represent the lid on top. So we just go to the manhole layer as before, double click on it, and brings up that same dialog box. We can go into the simple mark, click the marker that's representing it. We can size it based on, say, the meters scale of the map. So normal manhole is about 1 meter in diameter. We can change the internal fill of the manhole to, say, white, and the stroke around the outside of the manhole to green. And we can see we've now got a circle, green circle. If we apply, you can see that it updated in the map. Now we want to add another symbol, say to represent the 600 mm diameter manhole lid. We just click on that symbol to add another symbol. It's coming as red by default. Change the scale to meters, 0.6. And change our colour. Oops, hate that dialog, just a drop down to get you recent pics. And fill, we are going with clear, and we are going with green. And now we can just press apply, and now we can see we've got two circles representing your traditional manhole. Okay, that's doing a symbol of manholes. Now we've done the symbol, updated the symbols for the manholes. It might be quite nice to put some flow direction arrows or pipe direction arrows onto the pipes. This works 90% of the time. Depends on actually what direction the lines were digitized, but again, you go to the layer, double click to get into the style property box, and then we can add a marker style symbol, and we can change that to line marker, and we've got our little symbols have come up here. We can change that we only want them to be at the centre point on the line, and then the actual symbol itself, we can change it to be something a bit more logical by going there, and then our fill colour we can change to our standard green. And to check what that's going to do, we can just press apply, and then we go, you can see that we've got a line with a green symbol, and the marker line is drawing over the top. I think that's why it's gone to a darker colour. The reason I had that is I had an extra line up here which was black, so I just deleted it. So now I should be able to do an update. Oh, I've got no line now. So that's for some reason my sample line colour had gone black here, so I just had to go back into the sample line and change it back to green and press apply and update, and you can see now I've got green lines with green arrows. These arrows don't actually represent the flow direction, they represent the direction the line was digitized. So hopefully most of them were drawn from upstream to downstream, but you do get the odd one that is drawn the other way, and I'll have to investigate how we can fix that, but at this stage I'm not quite sure. Alright, so we'll pause there and I'll come back and talk about labelling. Okay, welcome back. And here I've just brought up for reference the Council GIS portal and what you normally see on there for symbology and text labelling. So we can see they've got the database ID, diameter of the pipe, type of material of the pipe, and who owns the pipe. On pipes and on sumps, they just have a little level and an ID, and manholes an ID and a little level and an invert level. So what we're going to do is try and replicate that labelling in QGIS in our maps. So I'll just move this out of the way. So right, back into QGIS now, and what I'm going to do is cheat a little bit because I've already set up the wastewater labelling styles, and they will use the same fields in the database of the shapefile as the stormwater. So what we can do is if we just jump into the wastewater main style, you can go to this labels tab, and you can see that I've added a single label, and I've added a expression to create the text that you'll see. To do that, you click on the expression builder, and in here we have handwritten text that is not pulled from the database within the single columns, and then we have stuff in double quotation marks coming from a field in the database, and then this is just a carriage return, and these two vertical lines are just meaning concatenate the string together. And we can see down here a preview of that it's working. So it's got ID, which is handwritten, and it's got the number from the database, asset number from the database, the internal pipe size from the database, a couple of millimeters handwritten, then the material type from the database, and then the owner from the database. So we should be able to just copy this in from here and go back to our stormwater main layer and go to add a single label here, and then build an expression. Just paste the same text as before, and we can see it's working. We haven't done anything wrong. It's come up perfectly correctly at the bottom, and we can go OK. Then we can check where the placement of the line is, how many times it's going to repeat, etc. You can just work through those things. They're pretty self-explanatory. Change the font, etc., etc. So now if we go apply, we have got some text which is representing the pipe asset ID and diameter. And we can see that any text is not green, which normally Council's GIS pulls it up and shows it as green. It's not justified to the centre of the line, of the positioning on the line, and centered. So to change the font text, again, pretty easy. Come down, change the text font, formatting, horizontal, it is here, justification, center. So now we press apply. So now we've got green text that is in the middle. We just need to fix up the placement to make sure it is in the right place. And I am struggling to find where that is. Okay, here it was right in front of me, so we just want to put it on the line and above the line, and we press apply, and there we go, it's positioned nicely. Okay, back again, and just doing a reminder here, so at each manhole we've got the asset ID and the invert level and the lid level. So again, I have the wastewater ones set up already. You can go into here, go into the expression builder and copy out the appropriate text string, pop down, cancel out of that window, pop down to the manhole one, install order, and we're going to add a single label, jump into the expression builder, paste the string above to pull out the appropriate fields, and you can see the test at the bottom, and it looks good. Okay, and we can go apply. Oh, and there we go. We have now got manhole asset IDs, lid levels, and invert level labels showing. We just need to fix up the colour. Again, back into here, and then you could play around with the positioning and placement, but I haven't done so at this stage. Okay, and we can see that we still haven't got different symbols yet for the stormwater inlet structures, which will vary, but let's just say we're going to turn them into rectangles to represent sumps at this stage. So we come back in, go into symbology, we can swap our marker to something a bit different, a square one, just like that, and we could have no fill, and we could change the outside line to a square size. We might change it to maps meter size, sumps about 0.6, and go apply and give that a go. Okay, now we've got a little square where each sump is. And the other thing we need to add is a label for the lid level of the sump. So again, we can switch back to labels. We can go to add a single label and go into the expression builder and add in what we would like to put here. So we can say lid level, type that, and then we want to have, say, a space, and then we want to concatenate to it what will be the lid level. And I know that in the council database, the field with the lid level is called the Z coordinate. So I double click on that, and it gives me a preview down the bottom. So lid level, etc. Type OK, press apply, and there we go. We have got our lid level, and we just need to tweak its colour. And we are done. Right, now we can see we've got a few other layers left. One of them is this stormwater node layer, which is just the lot connection point. We can actually right click on it and go open the data table, which is here to actually see the fields in the database. So as an asset type, an end, a junction, etc. Whether it's active, who owns it, etc. This is where you can figure out what fields you want to put in your labels. So in the council web portal, it is just represented by a green dot with an asset ID next to it, but it might also be quite helpful to have the Z coordinate, which will most likely be the invert. So we'll add that and we'll have a look, see how we go here. So again, we can double click on this node layer. We can go back to the symbology. We can just change it to green. Now it will be a solid green dot. Apply. My dialog box is in the way a little bit here. So it's applied it to a solid green dot. Now we go back to the label builder. Single labels. Click into here. Select the description field, and it has the ID field, so I have to manually type that text in with brackets around it. Put these in to concatenate it, and then I know that the field with the ID in it in the council system is called comp key. Double click that, and now I can see at the bottom I've got my string ID missing. So if we wanted to do a carriage return to a new line, we have to concatenate on a carriage string, which is represented by a backslash and an N, and concatenate symbol again, and then we would hand type in what we think it's going to be the lid level, and then we will concatenate onto that the Z code field. Okay, and now if we press apply, and we're going to have to shut that box to get it out of the way. We now have an asset ID with a invert level next to it, or what we think is an invert level. Now the colour's wrong, so again we go back into our box, and for some reason it is on haywire, and we can just change the colour and go out again. Hopefully by applying it. Apply, okay, and it's fixed it up to be green. Okay, we might add the asset type so we know what this is. So, and then we just double click into our layer, go into our string expression builder, copy our character return, so we will go to a new line, and then in here the field is called asset type. Double click that in there. Okay, apply. Okay, so it's saying it's an end. Okay, we've done the wastewater and stormwater. Now let's have a look at the water, because there's a few more interesting symbols, or hydrants and valves and meters and that sort of things. So here's obviously what we're trying to aim to do. And if I turn on just the water supply layers in QGIS, here's how it's randomly styled them. You can see that it is quite basic with no information again. So we've got a couple of big pressure zone layers that we don't really need. We can probably remove those from the layers, which will be here. Okay, and remove that one, so we don't really need those. Okay, now starting, I guess, at the main lines again, that's going to be pretty straightforward. Going into the main line and making them blue. Symbology, blue, apply. Okay, and some lateral lines somewhere, and we can stylize those up as blue as well. So that's the lines done, and now we want to add labels to those. So we go to labels, single labels, do it by an expression again, and looking at my clipboard history, it was this, and look at that, magically all the field data is the same on a different asset type, and it's created the label for us. And then we want to change the color of them to be blue, and that was on the laterals. And we want to do the same thing for the main lines. We want to add simple labels. And those, magic, we're done. Change the color. Ta-da! Right, the placement of those seem to be in the middle, but we can check that. We can go placement on the line we changed before, no repeats. Okay. Oh, that's right, we did have extra. We have the asset number above that. So we have to go back into here again. And we had we'll have a D and concatenate and oh, it's a little bit different actually. Okay, welcome back, and you can see I've created a couple of basic symbols for vowels and ones for meters, and all I've got left to go on the screen is hydrants, which are on their own layer. So the process for the other two symbols is pretty much the same as what I'll use here, which is edit the marker symbol. For the hydrant it's a square, and it's got a yellow fill, and I have a blue stroke line on the outside, and then they have a H in the middle of the block to represent it being a hydrant. So we just change it to a font style, and we'll change it to something basic like Arial, and then we'll choose H for hydrant, and it is a blue H, so we will just change the color to blue and apply. So there we have our hydrant symbol. A little bit small, so let's make it a bit bigger. Maybe 3. Apply. Okay, we probably could go bigger again. Like our hydrants to stick out, so we just go 4. Maybe make our font a bit bigger. 3. Okay, here you go. You have our hydrant symbol. Okay, once you've got all your line work all modelled and stylised how you want it in QGIS, you can then export it out to a AutoCAD DXF. To do that, you just go Project, Import Export, Export to DXF. Choose a location to save it. I had an error exporting before, so I'm breaking it down into the different disciplines. So if I just save a file for wastewater, and then all the wastewater ones start with WW, so I'll deselect the rest of it. And then I'll make sure I export the labels as in text, and OK. So it's written the file, and now if I go back into CAD, and go File, Open, and we can look at wastewater and see if that's open for us. Oh, this is the discipline that had the error in it, so it's corrupted somehow. So it didn't open the DXF, but we can open the water supply one and have a look. I know that the stormwater one worked. And there you go, the water supply one's worked. So there's obviously something it doesn't like about one of the wastewater objects, so I'll have to troubleshoot that. And it's all come in as blocks. And there's your little label text. Not quite sure why there's something way over there, but we can have a look at QGIS and see if it's there. And there's all the rest of it.